Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So today we're going to talk about some pro-ship discourse because there's a very fascinating trend taking place on social media right now where tens of thousands of users are creating what they call secret pro-ship accounts, where on those accounts they talk about fictional characters and they ship different characters with each other and have different shipping dynamics. And the reason they do this in secret is because they are afraid that if their friends and associates found out that they talked about fictional characters in this way, they would worry that those friends would not only blacklist them, but also harass and threaten them as a result. Now, before we get into some of those related talks about these secret accounts, let's start with this thread right here, talking about pro-shippers and antis. Now, pro-ship is next to lolly in terms of being the most misinformed topic for a lot of people. So a lot of people believe that pro-ship means that you support problematic ships. And that's not the case. That's what a lot of antis believe. But pro-ship simply means that you respect other people's rights to engage with certain ship dynamics. And you're not going to judge or harass them if you personally don't like those things, because you're going to allow people to consume whatever fictional content they want and basically stay in your lane. So this thread says, y'all saying pro-shippers are the bad guys, but honestly the worst, rudest, most absurd, dangerous, and harmful takes I've seen were from pro-ship do not interact accounts. These terms are red flags because you will wish the worst on real human beings with the excuse of protecting pixels. And no, I won't change my mind because this artist condones. No, you chronically online average harasser. Drawing dark/problematic fiction doesn't mean condoning, and you would know that if you had actual real problems to worry about other than your favorite ships. Because no one will convince me that this extremely toxic cult, yes you antis, are doing this with good intentions. No, after years of this, I know for sure it's about two things: fictional ships and power trips where they enjoy insulting people under false moral pretenses. I don't like to waste time on this topic with all that's happening in the world, and I'd like to keep this page lighthearted, but when you hear a queer disabled artist was blacklisted, harassed, doxxed, until tragedy happens and these monsters rejoice, well, that's the word for them. So this is actually regarding a currently unfolding situation, which we will probably talk about in the coming days. But this last paragraph is actually very close to a different story I covered a few months ago. I'll put a link to my video covering it in the description because that was a situation where a cancer patient who lost his leg as a result of his illness was doxxed and harassed and literally ran off of the internet because some 15-year-old found their disabled characters. They were making artwork based on themselves, and then they spread a lie that this cancer patient was not actually sick and that he amputated his own leg to satisfy his fetish-related desires. And it was a crazy situation. Tens of thousands of likes on that tweet, making up all that misinformation. And like I said, he was not only doxxed, but he was quite literally ran off the internet, forced to shut everything down for his own safety. It was a crazy situation. I suggest checking out that video if you have the stomach for it. But moving on, a lot of people shared in the quotes their experiences that related to the original thread. This user saying, I got told I deserved to be sexually abused by my father since I was really young. You don't effing say that. You'd rather protect your favorite characters rather than actually living, breathing victims. And this is something that is disturbingly common, where CSA victims come forward and talk about these subjects, and they end up getting told that they deserved what happened to them. And normally what happens is one of these CSA victims says either, hey, consuming certain fictional content helps me cope with my trauma, or they say, please don't denigrate my abuse that I suffered to something as trivial as drawings. And antis, when they see this, in protection of fictional characters, tell these real-life abuse victims that they deserve what happened to them because of the fictional content that they consume. Here's another one saying, like, I've literally been doxxed over this by people who claim to be protecting the internet from weirdos. You are pathetic human beings, and it's time to grow up. Yeah, the amount of people that get doxxed over fictional content, you can't even keep track at this point. It's an absurd number. Here's another one saying, I met a group of antis who asked a friend of mine to game end themselves. They sent death threats and all kinds of horrible insults to them for bad-mouthing a teenage pixel. My friend was a real teenager harassed for not liking a fictional teenager, and that lasted for weeks. So this is a scenario that's happened many times where children and teenagers are harassed in the name of protecting fictional characters. And this just reflects the old adage when it comes to antis where They treat real life people like they're fictional characters, and they treat fictional characters like they're real life people. And this anti right here proves the exact kind of stories we've been seeing. So they say, so apparently we're forgetting that fiction impacts life. When people see artists drawing children or animals or siblings in sexual situations, it can be normalized and made to seem okay. Some people see pedophilia being portrayed positively and think it's okay because of it. Well, if you follow this string of logic and you can't separate fiction from reality, that is a problem that you need to have solved. But going beyond that, things existing in fiction does not normalize the real life counterparts. Just as you wouldn't say that killing a character in a video game normalizes real life violence, you can't also say that those other things normalize their real life counterparts. Okay, nothing is being normalized because it exists in fiction, and the only reason people separate things like violence in fiction from these other themes is because it makes them uncomfortable. The only reason they have to separate these is based on emotional reasons and not any sort of unique logic that backs it up. But we see this also, this user using the same defense that they use to harass people over fictional content. They say that because fictional fetishes imitate real life ones. Now I'm going to hit you guys with some truth bombs here. I might upset some of you guys, but there's a lot of tropes that exist in anime, for example, that don't have real life counterparts. Like if you're interested in monster girls or Fuda or something like that, there's no real life counterpart. So that doesn't make sense in that scenario. But also if we want to talk about real life counterparts, there are infinite studies out there that show that there is a popular fantasy among women, and that is something that Twitter is not ready to have a conversation about, but that is something that is a real life scenario that they're having fantasies about, but it's just that. It's fantasies that are rooted in fictional content or role-playing scenarios. That sort of fantasy about that event is limited to fantasy. It's not something they want to have happen in real life. In fact, I think that mentality that this user has right here, that saying fictional fetishes imitate real life ones, is dangerous because they believe that somebody with a fantasy like that actually wants it in real life when that is not the case. But moving on, we saw this thread right here. This is very interesting. Actually, this user was harassed to the point of going private briefly. They say that the reason your friends have a secret Proship account is because they don't feel safe enough around you to tell you. They're literally afraid of what you'll do if you found out. And oh boy, y'all will never believe why that is. Yeah, I can't believe why these people would be afraid to share anything about their interest in fictional characters or fictional ships between characters. But yeah, ironically, this thread would be proven to be true by the quotes. The antis would come in and prove exactly the reasons as to why someone would have a secret account. So this user says, I'm crying, y'all will never make me feel bad for them, and I hope they never feel safe. You hope that they never feel safe for having an account dedicated to tropes and ships between fictional characters. This user is saying, if I ever find out any of you have a secret Proship account, I will make your life so miserable. This individual with over 400 likes on their tweet saying, I hope if any of my friends do have secret Proship accounts, they know that if I find out, I will not only drop them, but ruin their life and humiliate them to everyone else that they know. A totally logical response to someone having an account talking about fictional content. So imagine you're friends with someone, and if they find out that you have an account dedicated to fictional characters, they will not only cut you out of their life, they will try to ruin your life as well. And here's another user saying, if any of you have a secret Proshipping account, please step forward so I can send a special package to your address, which is an obvious threat. This individual in this thread, basically to sum up all they're saying here, they're trying to say that it is possible to groom someone into becoming a pro-shipper. So the final result of what happens by the normalization of pro-ship stuff is that people will now be groomed into shipping fictional characters together. We're not talking about real life people getting tangled in that. We're talking about the mentality of shipping fictional characters together. They want to have this as a valid statement, but then you have users like this saying, no, they have secret accounts because they are ashamed and know that what they're doing is just gross. You can't call people abusers if they get mad at their friend for being a pro-shipper. maybe they wouldn't be so afraid to be open about it if it wasn't so effing weird. So this person says if you're being doxxed, harassed, threatened over fictional content, you can't call them an abuser. But this last person saying if you're manipulated into shipping fictional characters together, that's somehow grooming. So I found this thread. It's pretty interesting. So I just want to read it and some of the responses to it. So this individual says, hey, if you have a secret Proship account because you want to avoid being harassed by your peers, I just want you to know that you're not alone. Most of us have left our former anti-circles because of the abuse, and I hope y'all could get out of it too. You don't need to go public if you don't want to, but I suggest leaving your circle if they're becoming too toxic for you. Trust me, you'll feel better without anyone dictating what fictional characters to ship or what genre of fiction to consume. It took me years to be comfortable around pro shippers, and now I'm fighting antis left and right. You don't need to engage in discourse though. Actually, don't engage in discourse for the sake of your own mental health. Just keep shipping what you want to ship. Now, just as I've talked about in recent weeks, there's been a lot of call-out threads in the VTubing scene where people are saying things like, if you don't unfollow problematic person X, I will block you. And as I said in that scenario, and I'll say with this whole situation with the private shipping accounts and things like that, if someone's going to unfollow you or attack you or no longer be your friend over stuff like this, that is not your friend, and that's a red flag, and you should avoid that person. It might suck to have to disassociate from people like this, but they are not your friend. They don't have your best interests at heart. If they're willing to drop you and then turn on you over the most mundane and harmless of things. But of course, someone would immediately prove this whole thread's point. An anti saying, if you have a secret Proship account, let me know so I can come and game end you, is what they're saying here. Again, like I always say, using censors like that does not get around the report system, but they're proving the exact point of the thread, immediately resorting to threats over the fact that someone has a secret Proship account. So here's another situation that took place during the last day or so. It involves the voice actor Sean Chiplock, who has voiced characters from Genshin Impact, and for some reason he is a magnet for antis. So here's the original tweet where this all begins. Someone saying, when the ship is a pro ship, but even the goddamn VA ships it. Where this minor, quote retweet saying, if Sean Chiplock comes and tries to ruin Kai like he ruined Diluc, I'm ripping out his heart with my bare hands like you will not pro ship. So there's a lot of funny things going on here. Number one, censoring Sean Chiplock's name and then sending him uncensored death threats, but also using the term pro ship in a way that clearly demonstrates they have no idea what pro ship even means in the first place. But yes, we're once again dealing with a minor in a space that they shouldn't be in the first place. And this tweet will forever remain relevant. There's so many minors on Twitter engaging with topics they have no business engaging in the first place and sharing the absolute worst takes and even threats in cases like this. But Sean Chiplock would respond saying, a minor wanting to put their hands on a man in his 30s is seriously disturbing, and I think you need professional help. Where the account would hide and go private, but then they would eventually create an alt account where they would explain their situation, and it's a whole light novel. They're once again trying to attack Sean Chiplock and justify their own behavior because they're just a kid, they don't know what they're doing, and that he shouldn't be responding in any sort of a way, and that he's done problematic things in the past and he deserves this, and blah, 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 blah. Basically, to sum all this up, go do your math homework, okay? This is not a conversation you should be engaging with as a minor. Get off the internet, because you clearly can't handle these things if you're sending death threats to adults over fictional ships, okay? And I saw some other things like this, saying, I think the eroding fiction/reality line in the fandom is becoming a bit of a problem. Y'all want to talk about the dangers of problematic fiction all you want, but the bigger issue is the lack of clear fiction/reality line, which, again, if you have an issue separating these fictional sets of content from real life things, that is something you need to figure out on your own time and space, because that is not normal. But this has been another case where people are treating fictional characters like they're real people and real people like they're fictional characters. And antis will get mad at you for knowing the difference between those two. And yeah, this was a very all over the place conversation today, hitting some pretty tough topics and controversial ones. So I do appreciate if you share your thoughts in the comments section down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.